What is natural in the environment is an interesting question. In a previous role on the Australasian Species Management Program, I was involved in discussions about the recovery plan for the Tasmanian devil, which was going through an extinction crisis because of the infections of a cancerous tumours that inflicted the face of the Tasmanian devil. Now, we propose that in order to save the species, which only now exists on the island of Tasmania, that the Tasmanian devil to be reintroduced, healthy animals reintroduced into mainland Australia. Now, some people objected to this because Tasmanian devils are no longer native to the main island of Australia. Well, this is actually a limited viewpoint in the sense of when Western white men rolled into Australia, that was the case. The Tasmanian devil was extinct for many years. However, if you're an Aboriginal, when you arrived in Australia, you would have seen Tasmanian devils as native. So it's very subjective about what is a native animal and what is not. For example, what is native to North America? Interesting enough, the horse is native to North America and actually evolved there. It was wiped out when the early Indians came and hunted them to extinction. And ironically, the conquistadors, the first Spanish conquerors, let their horses go free and actually inadvertently re-established an extinct population of horses, which then became rewilded back into the North American continent. And that's where they belong, because it's only that man made them go extinct. Similarly, actually, elephants actually evolved in North America. And if we take the timeline back to when humans started to affect ecosystems and wild populations, we should see elephants as really as a native North American species. Now, similarly, it occurs with orangutans. The Tapanuli orangutan we discovered through their genetics are actually more Bornean than they are Sumatran, and they have very little connection with Sumatran orangutans, which exist north of Lake Toba. And just like most of the species in fauna which exists south of Lake Toba on the island of Sumatra, they're far more related to the animals in Borneo than they are to the animals north of Lake Toba on the same island of Sumatra. So perhaps when we're talking about reintroducing orangutans into some of the forest, which no longer has orangutans in South Sumatra, perhaps using Bornean orangutans to re-establish the population is not so far-fetched. I'm not suggesting we do that, but I just want to open up the argument that what we consider wild and what we consider natural is very subjective. I mean, for example, orangutans went extinct relatively early, and they went extinct because of man on Peninsula Malaysia. Is there a reason why we don't reintroduce orangutans there and form a population that went extinct when humans are rolled up, not necessarily in the current genre of conservation? It's when white Western science rolls up that we consider things as a natural start of the decline of species that we should bring animals back to. No real solutions here, other than I think it's interesting for us to see conservation and what is natural in a broader context than we've normally had up until now.